Great to see us here. How are you all doing? Welcome. You're more than welcome. Here we are in the WaveLab Cast webinar. And I just wanted to say hello. I'm sorry, I should put my phone on airplane mode. Not that I'd ever see the inside of an airplane. I haven't seen the inside of an airplane in I don't know how long. Anyway, you're more than welcome. We got a few busters in here. We have Sir N68 and Red Moon Legacy for their face. It's with Slaney Audio. Slaney Audio? That sounds Irish. Are you from Ireland? Anyway, you're all so welcome. You're all so welcome. This is all good. Listen, lads, we're in here to that's a bit hot, isn't it? We're in here to help you guys. We're helping you guys. How are we helping you guys? Well, I'll tell you one thing. What we're doing is we're looking at a thing called WaveLab Cast. And WaveLab Cast, sorry, I'm just organising myself here. A little distraction earlier, so I'm just getting myself organised. So, what's this all about? Well, the very lovely people at Steinberg, okay, have turned around and said, there's so many people out there, okay, and they felt that some of you were struggling, okay, and you're struggling with stuff like putting a podcast together, okay, because you have your interests, you have your business, you have whatever you do, you have, and that's why you want to come up with a podcast. But you don't necessarily have the sound engineering skills or 30 years experience of working all those knobs and faders and machines in a studio. So what Steinberg decided to do was take an iteration of their WaveLab and make WaveLab Cast. And they pared everything back. And they just set up a few little procedures like the track inspector and simple editing and simple mixing and all that, and put it into one big package or one little package, whichever way you want to look at it, and called it WaveLab Cast. So what you do is you go and you grab your interviews and you grab your music and you put it into WaveLab Cast, and it does so much of the really heavy work for you in the background. So you end up with a much higher quality product. Much higher quality product to play out, because, you know, there's so many podcasts out there. It's unbelievable, and there are so many of them that even on the professional platforms that, oh my goodness, it just really is astounding how bad a quality some of the audio is. Astoundingly bad. But anyway, what can you do? Anyway, this WaveLab Cast is here to help us. Okay, so we've been here. There's a few shows, and we've been running through this WaveLab Cast. Let me give you a quick look. Okay, first off, if I want to go on to WaveLab Cast, where do I get it, Keith? Well, that and other questions will be answered right here, right now. If you have any questions, just throw them into the chat. Okay, the chat, whatever it is. We've gone through so much already, and it's just been such brilliant learning. I'm really, really happy with an awful lot of the stuff we've done already. We've done stuff like remote recording. We've looked at the interface. We've looked at the track inspector. We've looked at editing. Okay. Now, if you're new to this, don't worry about it. I'll give you a quick overview just before we kick in. Okay, so we can all have just a look at what we should be looking at. Okay, so if you're new to it, don't worry. This is exactly for you. Okay, if you know nothing about how to produce an audio show or a podcast or anything like that, you're in the right place. Okay, I'll take your hand and I'll guide you all the way through it. Okay, so have a look at WaveLab Cast as well, right? So if you look at the WaveLab channel, we've got the previous shows on there, okay? So if you download the demo, they have a lovely demo, right? Download the demo, have a go of it, have a play with it. Just bend it and break it and do whatever you have to do to help you learn. And if you're stuck, have a look at the videos and I'll go through an awful lot. But it's not just about the WaveLab Cast in the previous shows. There is so much incredible learning about recording situations, how to record, the equipment you should be using to record, recording people in other situations, whether they're 10 minutes down the road or whether they're, I don't know, I'm going to say Timbuktu. Then somebody's going to come on here and say, what are you saying about Timbuktu? We're in Timbuktu. Last time we had people from everywhere. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Anyway, so, so whether they're in Timbuktu or, I don't know, Alaska or whatever, and you're doing the interview, getting them into WaveLab Cast and how to get the cleanest signal in without, Wi-Fi dropouts and stuff like that. So check that out. That was last time's show. And let me just show you where you find this thing in the first place. Okay. So first off, you go to your browser and you go to steinberg.net, and that's up there like that, wherever that is. And you go to more products. And if you go to more products, you see all products. And you go down to all products and you scroll down a wee bit, and there she blows. There's WaveLab Cast. And this is the website you get. Okay. So it'll go through a few bits and bobs and show you around the features and stuff. But of course, you got to check this out. That's where the trial is, and that's where you want to be. So if you download yourself the trial, download it, install it, and have a play with it, right? I'll just run through the interface with you now, just real quick. This is what it looks like, okay? Now, let's just look at the interface just straight off. First off, here's our Workspace, okay? That's the Workspace. There's 3 tracks there. 1, 2, 3. That's Keith, Eva, and Manus, okay? This is just a little thing we did last month. And I still have that there because I want to keep working on this for us, okay? Here's your edit section. You get all these little different tools here. And there's a fade section, so that's fading in and fading out either your music or your audio clips, envelopes, okay? And your file, okay? Your file is super important because here you go. There's your preferences. When we're delivering our podcast, we'll go here. And then setting up a new session and stuff like that is in there. Okay, but super important is your preferences. When you open up your WaveLab Cast for the first time, it'll probably go to your default sound hardware. And what do I mean by hardware? You know the way you plug in your microphone into your laptop and your headphones into your laptop? That's your hardware. So imagine at home you had yourself your USB microphone, right? And you plug that in. Then the computer's kind of going to go, oh, there's a USB microphone. That's the hardware I should be using. Okay, great, brilliant. So we can tell WaveLab Cast that we want to use the USB microphone. Or indeed, if we get a proper microphone, I say proper, I've been working in the industry 30 years. Do I use USB microphones every day? No. But that said, I'm not a snob about it. You can get these super duper little microphones that you plug in. It works for you. Okay? And that's the important thing. What you need to do is keep it as simple as possible. You've enough to be getting on with the content of your show, organizing your show, scripting your show, music, interviews, whatever's going on for yourself. Okay? Brilliant. So, oh yeah, and be very, 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 please be very sure to check out the previous show on recording methods. Okay? Getting the proximity of your microphone and making sure you get a lovely resonant sound, nice, good sound from that microphone, whether it's a USB microphone or otherwise. If it's not a USB microphone, you can use a thing called an audio interface. And an audio interface is literally an interface between the real world, the acoustics in the real world, and the computer. So it's a wee box. You get an audio interface. I don't have one to hand. My son just set up a studio in his bedroom, and he's got my other interface. Lucky stucker. I would have loved a studio in my bedroom when I was a child. But anyway, yeah, he's got my other interface. So, and I'm using that one. So, an interface is basically a box. We looked at them in previous shows. I'll bring it in next week if you want, or next time if you want, and we can have a look at that as well. Okay? And that's where you plug in your microphone. You plug in your microphone or your instrument or whatever goes into your audio interface. There's a USB or there's a Firewire, there's a Thunderbolt or a USB-C coming out the back. That goes into your computer, and that is what WaveLab Cast will see. So I want you looking here, and if you look at preferences, let me just get the old the glasses, Athgelge. That's in Irish. If you go to global and then see here, audio connections. The audio connections is your audio device. So you're literally just telling WaveLab Cast, listen, I want to use my internal sound card in my Mac or my PC, or I want to use my interface, or I want to use my USB microphone. This is where you'll find it. You just select your USB microphone in the drop-down menu, and you're up and hopefully running. Okay. Now, there's some of those USB microphones don't have headphone outputs, which I find totally curious. But if you're plugging in headphones and you select your in and your out, because you want the audio in, but you also want to listen back for your audio. Okay, so you need an in and an out. Okay, let me just shoot back here. Go to preferences, audio connections. See, you got recording and you got your playback. Your playback is what it's spitting into your speakers, into your headphones or your speakers in the room. And your recording is the input from the microphone itself or the audio interface. Okay, deadly. Now we're up and running. So I'm going to hit play, and you guys should hear. Manus, what were you? Audio. Bum. Brilliant. Loving that. So see this big fancy thing here. I'm just going to mute everything and just, oh, it won't play. Of course it won't play. What am I talking about? I'm going to mute this actually. And then I hit play here. I went there. Okay. See all these fancy colors. You're not hearing any audio because I just turned it off. Okay. So just to show you really briefly around the interface, okay, is I'm just going to turn that back on. This is your Spectroscope, all those beautiful colors. Spectroscope basically gives you a readout of the frequencies that are playing at the time, from the low end to the high end to the mids, okay, and you can see the frequency range there, okay. These are your meters, okay, is it getting too loud, is it getting too quiet, and then these switch, and we'll be dealing with this again, you can import video into this. So imagine you're doing content creation for YouTube or something like that. You can shoot your video, you get all your elements together in, say, iMovie or Windows Movie Maker. Is that really a thing anymore? And then you bring in your video in here and you do your voiceovers, you do your music, you do your cleaning up of your interviews, you do your full mix, and you can produce your master straight out of WaveLab Cast to picture. What do I mean by that? So you bring in your picture, you bring in your audio, and everything's in sync in here. And that's that tab there, okay? So there's your history of what we did in the session, okay? And then if I flick over here, there's a file browser, which is like an explorer or a finder for audio files. Great. Metadata is kind of funky in that, you know, the computer files you'd be dealing with in audio in a computer, WAVs, AAFs, MP3s, that kind of thing, they contain other information called metadata. Don't worry about it. It's not a showstopper by any stretch of the imagination. We're just having a wee look here. You can set up markers in WaveLab Cast as well, and that's where you'll see your markers all set up. So imagine at a specific point in the interview, I want a marker there because that's a really important point in the interview. I'll come back and address that. Then you put a marker in, great. Another great section in the interview, put another marker in, great. And then you got a full list of all the markers that you need there, and you just click on them, it goes straight there. Happy days. The clips are literally just everything that's in there. Okay, brilliant. And the Spectroscope, we're back to the Spectroscope. Deadly. So our Workspace, and then this bad boy over here is what they call the track inspector. And we did a whole show on the track inspector a couple of times ago. This is the pièce de résistance, well, one of the pièces de résistance for WaveLab Cast. And I'll tell you why. This is the section that does most of the big, heavy work for you. Okay? You know when you're watching TV and you see the sound engineers in recording studios and stuff like that, right? And you see them at these big desks, and then there's all this outboard gear going on, and knobs and lights and faders and flashy stuff, and you're going, oh my God, you know? It's daunting, right? And for somebody that's never sat down in a front of a DAW, digital audio workstation, which this is, WaveLab Cast is a digital audio workstation, it can be freaking out. You just go, oh, what am I going to do? What are all the buttons? What do they do? What do they mean by a DS or denoiser, de-hummer? What does that mean? We explained the whole lot in the Track Inspector show. So check that out, okay? And then you get a good grounding in that. But the thing about the Track Inspector is you don't have to worry about all those lights and knobs and faders and outboard gear and all that sort of crazy stuff in the studio. WaveLab Cast takes on all that heavy work for you, and it deals with it beautifully. Okay, so the Track Inspector, okay, if I can just show you here, there's Keith's track, and then I'm going to throw on a de-hummer, a denoiser, and a de-esser, and then I'm going to go down to Ava's track, and you see they turned off. So this Track Inspector is specific to each and every track as we work through, as we go along here. So this is our timeline from start to finish, imagine. And then I wanted those specific cleanup, let's say, plugins for that specific track. Okay. Imagine Ava's track was all very dull and stuff sounding, okay? Then I can turn on the EQ, okay? And that whole track is then affected by this EQ, okay? So it's doing all the heavy work in the background, okay? And it's not that you're left with nothing to do, but you're left with a whole lot less to do, and definitely takes an awful lot of the worry and the kind of anxiety of, oh my gosh, what is a such and such piece of software or module or plugin, or how can I enhance things? Well, I did my interview and there was an open window and there's loads of noise on my recordings. Well, you go, okay, so there's Ava's recording. We just throw on the denoiser. And the denoiser reduces all that extraneous noise around the voice. Okay? So that does that job for you. So check out that show, Track Inspector, etc. But this week what we wanted to talk about was, again, other little pieces of software. And WaveLab Cast can host, for want of a better term, other little pieces of software. Okay? They're called plugins. And plugins are little bits of software that do jobs. Okay? So imagine I had a magic box. If I had a magic box and I was sitting out here, okay? And that magic box cleaned up, imagine, my recordings. Okay? Sorry, I'm just going to mute that. Sorry, guys, I'm just going to do that. Right. That magic box can do magical things with my recordings, and it's going to do amazing. If I could take my this track, okay, and take a wire from that track and plug it into the magic box, and then have the magic box wire coming out the other side and back into that track, so we're actually hearing what the magic box is doing. Okay, that's a plugin. That magic box is a plugin, and you can get tons of plugins for doing loads of different jobs. Reverbs, sound effects. But there's two main things I think we should look at tonight, because these two main things are super important throughout any workflow. One is EQ and the other is compression. Okay? Compression is, well, I'll explain it later, but it makes the voice much more intelligible, if you understand what I mean. Okay? Brilliant. If we have a wee look down here, okay? See this tab? We've now selected Keats track. If I want to rename that, I just double click on it, type in whatever I want. See I'm just going to turn these off so we don't have to focus on this. With the EQ, you got a low cut, you got low, mid and high. I remember I was saying to you about the spectrogram here, our spectroscope. If I just play this, okay, I'm just going to mute what you'll be hearing again. So you'll only see the spectroscope working here. You won't hear any audio. Okay, so I'm going to hit there. See the way that's working? And this is the decibels, amount of decibels. So there's a lovely rich mid going on there, if you understand what I mean. And there's the high frequencies. Okay, so this is the range of intelligible speech for humans. Okay, there's no really low bass end because it's just voice, okay, that we have recorded here. Okay, so there's the spectrum of frequencies we're dealing with, and that's how loud that spectrum is at that point. Okay, so that's your spectroscope. So if you consider a recording of, say, somebody with a really deep voice, or it's a little muffled or stuff like that. If you look at the EQ here, you got a low, mid and high. So you can bring up the low or reduce the low. So that's pulling out some of the bass end frequencies. So it's just cleaning up the voice and making it sound better. Now you go too high. Imagine you got the high and the mid and you cranked it right up, then you're going to start cutting into people's ears. So it's all about experimentation and nicely, gently, okay? So with the low, mid and high, okay, if the voice is too thin, then just bring in some low and some mid and see how you get more body in there, okay? So the only reason I'm mentioning the EQ is you got super simple controls there. You got a low cut. A low cut is basically all the building rumble and distant traffic and all that craziness going on in really low frequency recordings, or in really the low frequencies of recordings. Excuse me. And the low cut kind of just shelves it all out, so all of that dirt is gone, so hopefully it enhances and helps the intelligibility of the voice recordings. Okay, so that's those super simple EQ. But the thing is about WaveLab Cast, you can pull up your own plugins as well. You're not stuck to just the clean section and the enhanced section in your track inspector. Okay? Okay. See down here, you got additional effects. Can you guys see that? Okay, brilliant. Additional effects literally means you can put in additional effects like compression, EQ, even cleanup software, anything, as long as it's a plugin, okay? And there's two sections you can look at with plugins, okay? This section specifically deals with each track, okay? So imagine I just called up Steinberg and I went to, let's look for the studio EQ, okay? Brilliant, happy days. There's a studio EQ, look at that. Now, I'm just going to get rid of that for a second. Okay, you can still see it listed there in the track. I go over to Ava's track, click. Where's the Studio EQ gone? OMG! So it's not a problem because I go back to the Keith track and there's my Studio EQ. So this additional effects section, easy for you to say, is specifically related to the tracks. Each individual track on your workflow. Okay. If we can go over here to the master section, here we can put in more plugins. Why would I want to do that? Well, if you consider a funnel, okay, and each of our tracks is a grain of sand falling down into this funnel. These grains of sand, or streams of sand, imagine, are each of our tracks. And they all flow into one little spout, and that one little spout is our master. Okay? We'll end up with a stereo file, whether it's an MP3, whether it's a WAV, but we end up with a stereo file of all our elements, our music, our interviews, our stings, our beautifully edited and EQ'd voice recordings, and our remote recordings, and everything else that's in our show, including ads and everything, can all fall through the little spout, and that's our master. That's the one file we're trying to achieve to upload to our podcast hosting place. Okay? So if we can put any sort of, inverted commas, plugins to enhance the whole sound of the actual show, this is the section that we do it. And the main one we'd be kind of looking at there would be compression, which basically manages the dynamics of your show. Okay, we'll look at compression now in a second. Brilliant. I'm going to go back to the track inspector first and show you the relationship between the track inspector EQ and a plug-in EQ. Just to show you a brief overview so you don't totally get freaked out. You can still work away absolutely happily with the track inspector EQ. Totally. But I just want to show you the relationship between them. If I click on here, right, there is a Studio EQ from Steinberg. Yahoo! And you can see there's a couple of sections here. See band 1, band 2, band 3, band 4. And these all deal with, see there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these are all dealing with different sections of the frequency range. Okay, if I can throw on my headphones here, let me just call this, which track am I on? I'm on there. Let's have a listen to this.
There's so much we don't know about the light-bellied brant geese.
So listen to this.
They then leave. So we might see them on a sports pitch in Dublin every year, and then come March, they just disappear and we have no idea where they're going. And until recently, we haven't been able to know where they're going. It's only through new technology that we haven't been able to know where they're going. It's only through new technology that we've kind of started to open up our eyes to this incredible journey that they're taking.
Okay. So that's literally just to show you a couple of sweeps. Okay. So you can hear the difference that equalization applies to the voice. Okay. So I'm just going to reset that. And then what we did was you can turn these on and off, but you got your low, your mid, and your high. Okay, so let me just close that again. And again, here you go. Low, mid, and high. Okay. I can do the same thing.
So is everyone getting that?
Whoop, excuse me. That's me.
Yeah.
Have a listen.
They then leave. So we might see them on a sports pitch in Dublin every year, and then come March, they just disappear and we have no idea where they're going. And until recently, we haven't been able to know where they're going. It's only through new technology that we haven't been able to know where they're going.
Okay. So this is doing the same job as the Studio EQ. Okay? But look at all the knobs and buttons and bells and whistles and stuff. What does that do? Why is that moving? Where is that going? 752 what? So your EQ, it's okay. That's why I'm saying WaveLab Cast can take care of all the heavy work. You don't have to freak out and know about this, shelving and, frequencies and gains and stuff. Let me just show you what we're talking about here. The lovely thing about the Studio EQ is you grab it and it kind of does a lot of the work for you. You can kind of visually, graphically see what you're doing and see all the numbers are moving there as well. So as you progress with your WaveLab Cast, you might find opportunity to start experimenting with some of the plugins that ship with it, okay? Compressors or EQs or stuff like this. And if you do get the demo, I'd love you to start literally pulling it apart. Look at the previous shows, consider what you could be doing with editing. And if you do have a recording of something, imagine you recorded something on your phone. If you record something on your phone, it could be very thin and you might be able to enhance it with a bit of equalization. So try in the track inspector first. See how well that sounds. Then turn around and get a bit of call up an EQ in your additional effects section. Okay? And try and enhance the sound that way. It will be a lifesaver to you, but it could also, for kind of bad recordings, rough recordings, muted, all muffly recordings, or just there's too much high end, it's cutting into your ears, recordings on your phone. An awful lot of those USB microphones really don't have the range and the resonance, and they're very thin and tinny. So EQ can help you do that, either as a plugin or as in the track inspector. Okay? So it's worth experimenting with. Okay? So there's my EQ. I also get another section, and I can call up another plugin if I want. Okay, I've just got tons and tons of plugins in this machine because this is my work machine. So this, what I just called up, oh, you can't see that. Where am I going? I'm going over here. So see here, I can plug, I'm just going to get rid of that. See, if you right click, remove plugin. Right click, remove plugin. Okay. So I can call up another plugin. Any one of these, doesn't matter. Brick wall limiter, whatever these are, I want you to experiment. But I do want you to look at this one, and it's called a compressor. Okay? Now, what does a compressor do? A compressor is a very, very, very important piece of kit for making the voice sound more intelligible. Okay? So, look at the dynamics of this piece of audio here. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit there. Okay. Can you see that section just there? Okay. Whereas it's high and then goes down a bit. I'm very monotone in my delivery, so there isn't a huge dynamic in there, But what a compressor does is, I'm just going to get rid of this Studio EQ. So look, I'm going to right click and go remove plugin. So I'm just going to click here. I'm going to solo this, and we'll have a look at just this little piece of speech. Can I hear this? I can, yeah. It is really. But there you go, sibling love and everything like that. All right, lads, thanks very much. I'm going to... Actually, do you know what? That sounds awful. Oh, of course, yeah, because I have loads of mid and low and high. Go and start one more time. Is there something we could talk about commonly? without cursing. Without cursing. That's the joys of having teenagers in the house, you know what I mean? Scale. Anyway, so did you hear the difference in that? Let me just play that for you one more time. But there you go, sibling love and everything like that.
Hear how
all right, lads, thanks very much. I'm going to go and start one more time. Is there something we could talk about commonly? That sounds great. Okay, so now I'm happier with the sound per se. What I want to do is I want to reduce the dynamic gently, because, and we'll look at this when we start mixing, okay? So imagine I have a huge dynamic, loud bits and quiet bits. What I need to do is I need to balance those up. So the quiet bits aren't out of range of hearing, and the loud bits aren't breaking up and too loud for the rest of the elements that are happening at the time. So what I want to do is I want to reduce those loud bits slightly, okay? And I want to bring up everything just to make it more consistent, okay? So if you imagine a dynamic waveform, imagine this loud bit here. Now if I can reduce that slightly and keep it more consistent with this, then I'm reducing the dynamic range of the voice. I'm bringing it up, compensating, and that will allow me to make the voice more intelligible. And I do that via a thing called compression. You may have heard it before. I'm just going to hit that section there. So without cursing or anything like this, because this is going out on air worldwide tonight. Okay, and you can do the same on your master. You can pull up a compressor on your master and just reduce the dynamic range of the whole show. You don't have to go crazy. I'll show you the parameters. You don't have to go crazy, but if you reduce everything slightly, that means everything's been delivered at a much closer range to each other. And we'll deal with mixing and stuff like that again. But it means that all the really quiet bits are going to be able to be heard properly. And the loud bits just won't be too loud and people's ears are bleeding. Okay? Okay, brilliant. Let me show you the parameters of a compressor. We've looked at the EQ, and that was a plug-in. Brilliant, okay? The most basic, can't hear myself. The most basic parameters of a compressor is probably one of the most important is your threshold, okay? Now the threshold is the limit as to when the compressor kicks in, okay? Now I know there's all sorts of fancy numbers here, and it's at -20 currently, okay? That's a fader or a slider. See the graphic, how that's changing? Okay, so I'm just going to hit play here and you can see the reduction. I'm going to go and start one more time. See how much I've put loads on there? Talk about and see here, commonly. That's your reduction. See that? Without cursing. If I bring this right up, let's hit that section again. I'm going to go and start one more time. Bring it down to my Is there something we could talk about now it's starting commonly to affect things. Without so that's the threshold. That's where it kicks in. Otherwise, it doesn't have any effect on it whatsoever. So if you see at this section, if we have an idea of what kind of level that is at, that'll reduce these peaks down to that level. So now we have a more consistent dynamic. Yeah, compression. So the other major thing is this, and it's the ratio. So if it pulls it down by a specific amount, it'll do a ratio of, I don't know. If the threshold kicks in and it's shown 1 decibel, it'll pull it down by 3 decibels, if you understand what I mean. It for voice and stuff like that, 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 is fine. Okay? You don't need massive heavy compression on voice. You just need to control things slightly. And you will notice, if I just put this up big time. Listen how the voice is affected by compression if we put on too much. But there you go, sibling love and everything like that. All right, lads, thanks very much. Do you hear that difference? Go and start one more time. Sucked the life Is there something we could talk about commonly without cursing? Okay, so compressors can kill really lovely recordings, so you have to be careful. Don't be afraid, just be careful. Okay, don't be afraid. Experiment by all means. Get your WaveLab demo, okay? Get the WaveLab Cast demo and play with it when you have a little downtime, okay? And listen to the results. You have to listen to the results all the time, okay? Otherwise, you could be sucking the life out of it, absolutely killing it, a perfectly good recording, and you're just not aware of it because you're not having a good listen. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. So, I love WaveLab Cast is really so detailed to podcasting. Listen, Esther Vils, Dutch? Are you? I don't know. I can't remember. Anyway, listen, you're so right. I mean, the guys in Steinberg and the ladies in Steinberg, they really thought about this. They were very, very, I mean, they were developing this last year or the year before. I can't remember. We sat down and started talking about developing this system. And the one thing I kept saying, and the one thing they were all aboard with, was the simplicity. We have to keep it super simple. Big knobs, just turn it to, you don't need bells, flashes, lots of different stuff. The track inspector is just perfect for that. That you don't have to be worrying about all the flashing lights and faders and knobs and banks of gear and stuff. But Esther, if that's your name, sorry, I'm not sure if that's just a handle, but if Esther's saying you get the templates, and what do they refer to there? If you set up a new show, if you set up a new project, you get all these different templates. And see my workflow here. Okay, I've got my 3 tracks, and I'm just going to turn that off. You're looking at that there? I got my 3 tracks, and I got my track inspector and all that sort of stuff. But what if I have a music track and 2 microphones? If I don't really know how to set up new tracks or stuff like that, there's loads of templates in there. So you got a file, you go to, where am I going? New. And then there's an audio montage from a custom. You can create it, or there's templates there. See the templates? Host, guest, 44.1 kilohertz. Host and 2 guests, 3 guests. Host and video. Okay? So those templates are there. You can see that there, yeah? Those templates are there to help you, get set up and get going from the get-go straight away. Boom, we're in. Okay? So have a look at all those templates. They ship with WaveLab Cast, and it could save you an awful lot of pain and heartache and suffering. Esther, I can see it getting powerful with Cubase podcasting. It truly has potential. Yes, it does. And yet, so simple. Well done, Esther. You're right. No, I mean, simplicity is about where it's at. If you're sitting down to produce your own podcast, the last thing you need to be doing is struggling with the gear, struggling with the technology, struggling with A, B, C, D, E, and F. What does, D-Hummer do? And you're struggling with that, and you're throwing on D-Hummer. Why would I throw on D-Hummer? There's an awful lot of stuff you've to get on with already without having to worry about that. And Esther, you're so right. It's so simple. And that's why I love it. It's great. So, compression, right? So, compressor, we can put one on here and just make it a little more intelligible. But there you go, sibling love and everything like that. All right, lads, thanks very much. I'm going to
Sounds a
go
little squashed to
and
me.
start one more time.
Better.
Is there something we could talk about commonly
I'm
without cursing?
I crack myself up, you know. It's like, is there anything we can talk about without cursing? Teenagers, huh? It's brilliant. Loving it. So did you hear... actually, there's a brilliant little function I wanted to show you. This is hilarious. You'll love this, right?
Without cursing.
Manus's birthday, right?
No.
There's Manus. So the green track here, let me just show you here. The green track is Eva. Okay, you can hear her here. I'm just going to solo her.
Manus's birthday.
I know there's loads of Wi-Fi breakup and stuff like that because it was literally just an experiment we were running that day and stuff. So excuse the quality of the recordings. Otherwise, have a listen to Mano.
Listen out and closed-minded.
Okay, and your response. So Manny has his guitar in the background, by the way. So have a listen to this.
No.
Manny.
Okay, so Manny's working away.
Go off.
So basically, we have a word here in this country called feck, F-E-C-K, which is not anything to do with the F word, if one will understand. And tragically, people use the F word a lot. And sometimes people go along and they F and they blind, as we say here in Dublin. They F and they blind all the time. So F and this and F and that and F and the other. And in Ireland, we don't, to lessen the impact of a curse, we use the word feck. Feck that. And look at that feckin' thing over there. And it isn't a curse word. It's just like, geez, or I don't know what would be an equivalent, gosh, or something like that, okay? So it's not an insult. Irish people take an awful lot of humour from it. But imagine it was the F word in our interview, okay? So let me just go over here. I think I get a lovely feck from Manus there.
Tomorrow.
No, it's not that. I have it
Don't
here.
need anything for the band up.
Oh,
Red
he's
Velvet. I told her this 3 times, and she keeps asking.
Gosh, I wish I had more exciting stuff to bring you guys.
Go off.
So hear that? The beep off. Okay? He said feck off.
Everything like that.
Okay, so here we go. Look at this. So imagine you're recording your interview. Feckin' okay? So imagine that was the F word. So I can zoom in here, look, to this. See that? That section there. And I can right click and edit source. Okay? If I edit source, it opens up a new tab. And this is only the little bit that Manus gave us there. Can you see that? Northern Star. Okay. Okay, Esther. Love you too, baby. And give me 2 seconds on that Northern Star. I just want to show you this little function first, okay? We've so much to discuss in that. And Northern Star plug-in chains for a podcast. We have different contexts that we have to talk about there. Brilliant question. Love the question. We would absolutely address it in 1 second if you would. Okay? So have a listen to this. This is brilliant. Okay? So imagine that was effing whatever. See this? Bleep sensor. You get a little drop down menu here. Look. High tone or low tone. Okay? Or else you can click here and you can select the specific frequency you want. Look, listen to this. Apply. And now look what it did. So I've just turned fecking, which is not a curse word at all, it's an endearing Irish term, right, into something everyone's presuming that is the F word. So yeah, if you're doing an interview and you got loads of curses throughout, in your edit, you can go to your bleep sensor and you can input or cause it. Let me undo that and I'll show you the other two parameters. Look, if I just get rid of that, I'll go here. Can you guys see this? You can see this. Okay, cool. I'm going to go for a low tone this time. And that's just put that in there. Listen. Okay. Or I can undo that and I can go for a high tone. Have a look. Right? So we can bleep out expletives, if you will. Okay? The other thing is silence generator, and you can imply that and just knock out the word completely. Okay? So let me just undo that because I don't want to affect things too readily. And here we go. Here's the original. Okay? So as you edit, you can beep out or mute the expletives. Okay? What I would do in this specific case, I'll show you now. Okay? So there's the tab with Manus's line on it. Okay? If I go out here, you can see the whole thing. That's the whole interview, inverted commas, that we did together. So when I close that, it's going to ask me, did I want to save it? And if I go, I save it, and it's kept in my timeline here. Okay, let me just zoom out. That's purple because it's soloed. So if I don't want to hear this track, I can mute it. Or if there's if there's one I want to specifically focus on, I click solo. Okay, so there's your expletive blocker, if you will. Okay, so, but listen to this. So is really no. But there you go, sibling love and everything like that. All right, okay. I love it. It's brilliant. So look what I just did there. I selected that and I hit delete. Really no. But there you go, sibling love and everything like that. Okay, I'm going to undo that and show you again. So look, I'm selecting that area and I'm hitting delete, and that's gone. Okay, it is really no. But there you go, sibling love and everything like that. All right, lads. So do you see what I did there? It's just basically editing out stuff underneath my speech part. And as soon as you start doing some interviews, and as soon as you start getting a nice recording of your microphone and your interviewees, there could be crosstalk there that you might have to cut out. So it's something to focus on. Okay? So overall, we looked at compression here. We looked at EQ on the specific tracks. Excuse me. So there's the compressor. We're using the track inspector EQ on this track. And again, if I flick over here, where's it gone? Panic. Don't panic. Don't worry. This is all to do with the specific tracks. Okay? I click on Keith. There's my EQ and my compression. I go to Manus's track. He hasn't got anything on him because he sounds fabulous or something. I don't know. Okay? So there's your track inspector. I've got my lovely bit of compression going on there. Okay? I'm just going to hit play. There you go, sibling love and everything. We didn't go through the rest of those. Sorry. Your ratio, I'm going to pull that back because we don't want to go too heavy on it and kill it. The attack is how fast it kicks in. Okay? So if you have a really fast attack, like milliseconds, it kicks in straight away. Okay? You can hold it, okay, for a specific amount of time. So it'll take the dynamic and it'll hold it down for a specific length of time. Okay? And again, there's no point in me showing you all of this. You have to experiment it, and you have to listen to your experimentation as well. Okay? Really, really, really important. Because if you're not listening to what you're doing,
it will suffer. Your final product will suffer. You want to make it sound magic, and you've got all the tools right here to do it really simply. But if you're not listening to what you're doing, the whole project will suffer. Okay? So when you are experimenting with these parameters, please have a listen to what you're doing. Okay? Great. The release, we have the attack, a couple of milliseconds, imagine. It holds the dynamic, okay? But when does it let it go? Okay? That's the release, okay? It's when it imagine, I don't know, 10 minutes or something crazy. That's just a crazy example. When it releases the compression again, okay? Your makeup or gain, okay, this is currently on automatic, right? So when I'm playing something,
all right, lads, thanks very much.
See the reduction there?
I'm going to go and start one more.
So it's actually reducing the loudness or the dynamic of my speech. So imagine it was sitting at, I don't know, -6 decibels on a scale. It's reducing it by, say, 3 decibels. Now we're down to -3. So it sounds quieter. Why? Because we've reduced the dynamic to a much more consistent dynamic. And the makeup or the gain, you can bring up by that 3 dB. Now you have your consistent dynamic all within the listening range that you're hearing, if you understand what I mean. Okay? So we've reduced the dynamic. Okay? But because we've reduced it, we want to bring that back up to the listening range that we should be listening to. Okay? And that is the makeup. Okay? And in this specific, there's a dry mix. How much of the actual compression do you want versus the original signal, which is super handy. Super handy. Okay, Northern Star. Here we go. How long is a piece of string? Have you got all night? Have you? Okay. Let me just wrap this up, Northern Star. I'll talk to you about this in 2 seconds. So now we can put as many plugins as we need on each track. And then for the whole master section, okay, we can put in some compression. Okay? There's our compression. We'll have a show compression and we'll put it in there, and the whole show.
Thanks very much. I'm going to go and start one more time
till it's kicking in. Where is it kicking in? I don't commonly know. It's kicking in somewhere there.
Without curse.
And what we've got is our funnel again. All the strands of sand all falling into place, and we need to control the flow of each of those, if you understand what I mean, to make sure that the whole dynamic of the show, the music isn't too loud versus the voice, the interview person isn't that loud and your voice is way down here. We need to control all that, and we'd be looking at mixing voices together with music. And another amazing function of WaveLab Cast that helps you do that and takes tons of work away from you. Tons of work. It's called ducking. Okay? Ducking automatically mixes your music for you. To a degree, of course, because we need to consistently keep listening. And we'll look at that in another episode. We'll go through the whole thing about mixing. And Northern Star, this is mostly to do with how I address your question, okay? Which is, wow.
I'm going to
what is a good plug-in
time.
chain?
Is there something we could talk about?
A plug-in chain would be, let me just think.
So, first off, starting off, we just need to keep it simple. We really do just need to keep it simple. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the track inspector for all your tracks. So you can put your EQ. Let me just select this. Yeah. We'll deal with your EQ, your maximizer, and maybe some voice exciter. Okay? And especially denoiser if the recordings are too noisy. Okay? Let's not worry about that right now. Okay? This section is for all of you to experiment with till next time. Okay? I want you to call up a compressor. I want you to call up specific settings. I mean, put on a loader ratio, bring the threshold right down, squash it, squishy, squash, squash, squash everything. Okay? And I want you to listen to what it's doing. Okay? I want you to listen to what it's doing. I also want you to listen what each of these sections are doing in the track inspector as well. Just train the ears. Let's get the ears into shape, okay? On your master section, I want you to call up a compressor. And I want you to listen to the whole show there as well. Okay? Squash the whole show down. Bring up the ratio. And see, is it getting all muddy? And you hear sucking sound. Kind of stuff. Have a listen for that. Northern Star, where do I start? First off, plug-in chain for a podcast. If you stick to the track inspector in WaveLab Cast, the track inspector will do so much work for you. It's unbelievable, right? Which reduces your dependency on, say, plugins in the additional effects section. Okay? You don't need to call up an EQ from the additional effects section because you have one in the track inspector. Okay? So that's one job sorted. The maximizer will kind of work like making the dynamic pretty consistent, for your voices. But if there is a massive dynamic in the voice, then by all means put in a compressor, because you'll have played with it and you'll have learned what the compressor does at that stage, right? So that's all good. A plug-in chain at the end of the funnel, okay, which is going to be our master, and we'll be looking at all of this when we start mixing in WaveLab Cast. That could do with some compression. And there's other plugins you can get, like loudness plugins. In the track inspector, let me just show you here. You got your cleanup section as well. There's pieces of software out there as well, like spectral layers and other products that do cleanup, and there's other products that do reverbs, and there's other products that do lots of different stuff, right? Which could always enhance your workflow. Northern Star, I'm probably not answering your question properly, am I? Because I'm at 6s and 7s. Okay, here's the answer. And I will try and embellish this when we get to the mixing show. Okay? A plug-in chain is all good. Okay? It sounds a little detailed and convoluted. The track inspector is a plug-in chain. Okay? Just doesn't look like one, or it's not named like one, okay? But that's your starter for 10. Okay? Use your track inspector to help
each and every track as much as you can. And yes, if your interviewee is very, very dynamic, loud bits and quiet bits, definitely you need a little bit of compression just to keep them a little more consistent in their delivery, so we can hear their quiet bits and we can not get blasted out of it with the loud bits. Okay? When you say plug-in chain to me, Northern Star, I'm hearing my master output, the little tube at the end of the funnel. But you see, we have to keep this the flow of each, using the analogy of the funnel, and there's streams of sand coming in. Each of those streams of sand is one of our tracks. If there's too much flow here and it's pushing out here, we got to reduce this flow. So the more you can do individually on each individual track to keep the level consistent and not too loud, the music not too loud at that point, and you're hearing the interviewee as well as the interviewer consistently, and not one is not fighting the other, all that work can be done in the workspace. So now we're really controlling each flow and each string of sand falling into the funnel to come through to our master. Okay? The master plug-in chain could be just a bit of compression and maybe a loudness meter or something like that. We have meters in WaveLab Cast already. So your master section might only be a compressor. Your plug-in chain is your plugins on each track in your workflow, because you're controlling and manipulating and working and smoothing out and making sure everything is cool per track. And that's what the track inspector is there for. It does all that work for you. Well, tons of work for you, you know. That leaves you with super sounding audio that all you have to do is edit, place, grab a piece of music, put it underneath on a stereo track underneath. Now that's too loud. All right, well, bring down the volume of it. Okay? And we'll deal with mixing it later. So, to answer your question, a plug-in chain for a podcast might only be just one little compressor at the very, very end of your chain. Do you know? Because you've done all the work, all the good work in the workspace already. You know? Does that answer your question, Northern Star? Or am I just rambling? I hope not. I hope that answers your question. Yeah, I mean, there's so much work you can be doing within WaveLab Cast itself. You know, I mean, see the way the tools change. Each of these clips. Okay, let me just select that clip and that clip. Excuse me. There's loads of editing you can be doing. You know, the tool. I'm just hovering my mouse over here. You can see that. Okay, hover my mouse, goes to the end. I can trim that. See that? Because I didn't want that piece of audio. I just trimmed that. And see this? The tool has changed again. That's putting a fade in. See the fades? Okay. And if this is too loud, see the tool has changed again. I go to the middle of the... There's my tool for dragging around, okay? I go up to the middle of the clip and look. That increases the volume and decreases the volume. Okay? And you can see the numbers in between. -7, -4.7. So imagine I had a piece of music down here that was too loud. So I just go to there and I just reduce the amount of music. So now I can hear the voice much better. Yeah? And you can do all of that in here. All of it. It's all good, you know? So, yeah, does that answer your question, Northern Star? I hope so. I hope so. There's tons you can be doing in the workspace itself. And
that'll go to that plug-in chain will go to ultimately making your show sound super good. Super good, because again, you got to carry the message. You got to get the message out there. You want people to listen to you, potential clients, you know, like-minded people, audience figures. You know, you want the numbers up there, you know, so as you can get and build and your podcast, you know, and get it working for you. And this goes a whole long way to doing that. Okay. Guys, that was a joy. I hope it answered an awful lot of questions for you. I hope you got something from it. Esther, thanks a million for joining us. Sir 69, Fair. We're from all over the place. Slaney Audio. Who else have we got? Red Moon Legacy. We got Northern Star. We got loads of people in here. Loads of people. It was a brilliant night. So listen, thanks a million. You've been an absolute joy. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next time. We will post over the next couple of days what we're going to do on the next episode. Next episode. So if there is anything, when you download the demo from Steinberg.net, when you start playing with it, and please start playing with it, if you don't start getting your hands mucky with the technology and learning and listening to what's happening, you're going to be struggling. So the sooner you get your head into it and start playing with it and messing up and learning from that messing up, the sooner you'll be up and running and you'll be flying, really flying with this so quickly. Seriously, it's so quick. Unbelievable. Esther Vils, my pleasure. Thank you for your contribution. You're very, very, very welcome in here. In fact, everyone's so very welcome in here. It's great. If you guys are playing with it, you know, over the next couple of weeks in the demo, will you do me a favor? Have a piece of paper with you, okay? And if you do come across something that, if only Keith was here to ask, I could ask him about such and such and such and such because it's just not working for me, or should I be doing this, or what's this button for, or whatever it is, just write it down on a piece of paper. And then we'll come in here next time and we'll put it into the chat. And I'll try and answer the questions as best. Hopefully not as long-winded and convoluted as Northern Star's question. Anyway, that's all good. Listen, thanks a million, guys. It was an absolute joy. Great to see you. I hope everyone's well out there. I hope everything's going okay for you. You know, your creativity and your, ultimately, your giving to the world, whether it's to clients or whether it's to like-minded people or to whoever, isn't a huge leap away. It's not a huge leap away. Do yourself a favor. Say, yes, I can do it. I want to do it. Because tools like WaveLab Cast take an awful lot of the weight away from that decision. Because any old punter can learn this and come up with a really, really high quality sounding podcast or content for YouTube or wherever you're putting your content with really simple tools, because it does the work for you. Really. It's worth looking at. Anyway, I'm going to go. And I hope you had a lovely evening. And it's been a pure joy. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys next time. Alrighty? So I'm going to look over here. I'm going to put... What did I say I was going to put over here next time? Oh, yeah. Might have to get another screen in here. If I get any more screens in here, I'll just get in suntan every time I turn on the computer. Anyway. Listen, lovely to see you guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Take it easy. See you later.